Hi, I'm Lisa Engel-Franklin, and I'm a rainbow energy healing practitioner. And now I've started doing interviews, and I'm bringing others into the spotlight to talk about their gifts and how they're helping people. And today, my guest is Ayesha Sheeba, and thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you're here, Ayesha. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Well, namaste, and thank you, Lisa, for having me on your show. Yeah, well, I'm from India, for a start. I guess that explains a lot about what I'm doing, what I do, sorry. And well, I'm basically a spiritual visionary. I prefer to call myself that because I do a lot of things. I guess it gives a broader, limitless kind of perspective when I call myself that than to say I'm this or that. But
Mhm.
I've written everything from books to speaking for TEDx, all the way to I have my online courses, and I've been doing this for almost 2 decades, a little over 2 decades actually,
Mhm.
mostly online. So I've had the opportunity, the privilege to offer my work through many mediums, many platforms, and so I still keep doing it. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Mm, okay. And today, you're going to talk about the rituals that you do. And I've seen a lot of the posts on Facebook, and I'm really fascinated. And I wanted to find out more of what goes into those and if there's history behind it. And, if you can just talk more about that and how it helps people.
Yes, well, I've introduced the brand Spirits of India only about a few months ago. And so I was kind of wondering how it would be received.
Mhm.
Um, but most of it goes back to a lot of research that was done well over a year before it came into being. And this comes back from my roots because I was born and raised in a Brahmin family. And if you do a little bit of research on what a Brahmin community is, we're basically caste of the upper priesthood in India, in Hinduism. So when you're born into that kind of a family or community, basically a way of life, to have people chanting and
Mhm.
being fascinated or interested in art. So dance and art and you know, how do you say it? Rituals like this.
Mhm.
All of this was part of our lives. So it was something you grew up to. Like your parents teach you scriptures when you're very
Mhm.
young. I think that can be compared to someone who was born into a pastor's family or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to give a very as clear an analogy as possible. So
Sure.
you're basically born in that environment, and your ancestry involves work that involves healing and energy work like this in their own way, and mostly connected to scriptures, religion. So when well, as I grew older, my perception of religion shifted, much like a lot of people do when they have their awareness and spiritual
Right.
awakening.
Right.
So I wasn't paying much attention to that, and so of course I started to accept spirituality in everything,
Mhm.
and over time, I was drawn back to my roots again, to understand that there was indeed a lot more value to it than I did give it credit for in the past. And so, when I started to evolve and with my work, I figured that as a healer as well, I could bring my roots into this and probably create a kind of a fusion which would help more,
Mhm.
because there's always a lot to draw from the past, from history. I believe every corner of the earth there was an ancient civilization that was way more spiritual than we are today as millennials, and
I think so
and
too.
all of that can be drawn in,
Mhm.
and presented and used as a blessing to existing healing modalities and improvise it.
Right.
So that is basically what my rituals are. My rituals are a very complement my roots, but at the same time, I want to make sure that it is not considered as something religious because
Sure.
of the way that the deities are involved, the gods are involved. And it's also a way for me to show a kind of respect, a way of helping others to perceive religion not as how it is presented generally in this world, but in a way where you can just be in love with them. as individuals, as beings of light, as ascended masters, howsoever you wish to identify with them, as long as they're able to, convey the love, the one consciousness, the connection, and to be able to obtain their blessings, to be able to work with them towards your highest good. That's my purpose. So if people who are drawn by the rituals or by the deities or whatever they feel drawn to, I'm sure that the reason why I was drawn to creating these rituals too has a much bigger purpose than even I probably know right now.
Sure. On the healing aspect, like, because we never know all that it encompasses, and all to the depth that it works and everything.
Yeah.
And
everything has some kind of purpose.
Right.
Everything has some kind of purpose. I never for once thought that my spiritual work would involve these kind of rituals. I never did think about it, because till about last year, around June, I was focused more on my books. So I was focused more on my speaking and everything else. And I never thought that I would ever do something like this. This just kept drawing at me very strongly. And I felt like, okay, it's about time I kind of paid attention to what it was trying to say. And so, and a lot of research went into it. So nothing about it is just an aesthetically pleasing.
Right.
No, it's not for that purpose at all. Right down from the names of the rituals to the glitter.
Right. Well, the elements that you use and everything. I mean, I wondered about the flowers, because I know with flowers, they can be used in healing and everything, So I wondered, especially the ones that I see sometimes, and I don't know which one it was, and I apologize for that, but it would have flowers and the candles, and I just wondered what goes into all of that. And there must be some set, like you said, you've gone into the history and for the preparation of it and everything. So they're not just thrown together randomly. There's the meaning behind everything. So
one thing that people who followed me all these years know is that I take a long time to get anything out. First it's convincing myself. That itself takes a while, because I don't put anything out there or start working on anything without being absolutely sure that it's going to be useful to people. And the second thing was preparing. I knew it was going to be a very exhausting affair, because I had to go back to scriptures. I had to do a lot of homework. It was way too much of researching, both online on scriptures, and having to go back to a lot of these. We have a lot of herbs in India which cannot be found anywhere else in the world.
Oh, wow.
So these are things that I use for medicinal purposes, ancient medicinal purposes of Ayurveda. And, back in those days where certain herbs and oils have metaphysical properties for healing. So these are, and we even have certain places in India where these herbs can be exclusively found.
Wow.
And they're not easily sold. So, to be able to get them all from different parts of the country. And, that itself was a mind-boggling thing for me to think that where in the world how am I even going to gather all of this, to begin with, before I even start to apply them to. Sure. So what I did was I initially started off by creating my own oils for infusing into the rituals. So that's the very first thing. That took me 2 months. So I had to slowly design the many ingredients, the elements, the oils, the mediums, everything that went into every single oil. And so that's what I did. I created 5 different kinds of oils for different kinds of purposes. So, and that I had to wait. And these oils were specially blessed and placed on the altar, and for a week for them to all infuse in and soak into all of the herbs and everything. And these are the oils that I use. So nothing that I use is ever just bought up a store.
Right. Right. It's from scratch.
I made sure, right from scratch. And everybody saw me. I was like, when I'm a very expressive person, someone who likes to share information. So people who have been following me, what they do is they always notice that whatever I do, whatever I experience, I put it out on Facebook because I want to share with people. And so right from the time I started researching about this, I had put up materials on that. I had shown them the leaves or whatever that I got, foraged, and new stuff that came in. People saw everything. Like if I'm going to do a ritual 3 hours from now, I will be plucking the flowers, the petals. I
Mhm.
would be organizing everything, and I'll take a photo just to show them. See, this is what I do. This
Mhm.
is how it's done. So people won't have to just see the perfect, pretty image. They get
Mhm.
to see from the behind the scenes what actually happens. And I
Right.
think that's important because you're doing something that people need to know comes from the roots. It's always from the beginning. There's something that goes on behind it.
Right.
And for me, that creates trust and that
Mhm.
creates a connection, a bond between me and people who follow me. And so that itself is, I think, has always supported my work over the years because
Mhm.
I've always believed in the most important thing being the bond that you create with every person. And that is what lasts longer than to turn this into a business as soon as possible because that was never my intention. I've been around long enough for people to, have known everyone else around who knows me. So,
Right.
it just grew on its own. So when I coming back to rituals, like I said, everything about it, right from its name, like for instance, the protection ritual is called the Rakshana ritual.
Mhm.
Rakshana is a Sanskrit word. And in
Um,
Sanskrit, Rakshana means protection, to
huh.
shield, to hold. All right. And so Vaidya healing, the Vaidya healing ritual, the word Vaidya in it means heal,
Oh.
to touch, to heal, you know. And so every word, like Kamen is the love and passion ritual, which is for relationships and marriages. And that is the word Kamen comes from the word Kama Sutra. So
Oh, okay.
Kamen and so on and so forth. So everything has its own um,
Meaning and
proper space and meaning and depth that
right.
comes all the way from the ancient
So there
aspects
it
of the
has a
religion.
historical background for each one of them.
Right,
Wow.
right.
Wow.
So when by the time someone sees a photo of a ritual, everything looks like it's just there. It looks all pretty, but there's a lot of thing that goes into every little
A
aspect
lot
of
of
it. Like
details. A lot
yes,
of
a lot
details.
of details people don't even see. Like for instance, in every ritual, a minimum of 70 ingredients,
Wow.
70 different herbs are inside that ritual in the form
Wow.
of oils, in the form of herbs, the flowers, the everything.
Mhm.
I have to personally prepare the formats months before I even launch the product and the
Mhm.
brand. And then it's further customized based on each client. Sometimes someone would come in and say, well, for instance, I'll just give you an example. Like, when you talk about protection, the Rakshana ritual, it's dedicated to the goddess Kali. All right. And so now when you dedicate it to a certain god and you're looking forward to their blessings,
Mhm.
this is a format that we follow in India. Normally we want to first make sure that we respect the
Sure.
god or the
Sure.
goddess. So we make an offering of all the things that they love.
Okay.
So Kali loves lime, all right, and she loves neem. So we bring her different versions. So this is just two of it, which a lot of Indians know. But generally, there's a lot of things that
Sure.
they like over several incarnations. She may have seen and loved certain things, certain flowers. So you're
Oh.
basically offering all of that to her,
Mhm.
and you're asking, and then on top of that, there are this for the protection of the person that you're seeking for. There are of course other things that you need to add in, like the herbs for protections that we use, like sage, for instance.
Okay.
So on the total of everything, when you add up, it goes up to about above 50 easily,
Wow.
for every ritual. The candles, they are handmade candles and from very, very reliable person who has been providing them for me for
Mhm.
ever since I started this work. And she's put in tremendous effort into every order of mine because she knows that I do a lot of, I buy them almost every week. Like I
Wow.
run out of stock
Wow.
every week. So like, and so a lot of, and the oils that I make myself are the ones that I infuse into the candles, into the oil lamps. And these oil lamps are also very special. A lot of people like it. Um, I've had people ask me, how come your oils don't flicker? Like they
Oh.
just stay. And
Mhm.
I say that's because we use different kinds of oils. I use a combination of 7 different oils
Oh, wow.
for every oil lamp. And so it goes all the way from ghee taken from milk or butter, all the way from, you know, different kinds of oils from different herbs like neem oil and eucalyptus. And so it's a whole lot of bunch of things. And I also add the oils that I make myself. So it kind of gives the kind of density, the energy that is required for every, again,
Mm-hmm.
the oils change based on each ritual and
Mm-hmm.
each situation. So normally I sit down with my client and I have a discussion about the exact situation, what can be done, what cannot. Some rituals need to be repeated after a month or two, and
Mm-hmm.
some don't. So so on and so forth. So that's how it works out. So a
Wow.
lot of details, yeah.
So when you see that picture that you post, you have no idea of all the things that go into making the ritual. And the one thing is you've been talking that really strikes me is that there's a lot of love that goes in from all
Yes,
different aspects, you know, of all
yes.
different things. And that it really is striking, you know, because you have to have a lot of love in your heart, you know, to be able to do something like that instead of just, it's
Yeah.
not a commercial thing where you just go to the store and buy the candles and, you know, put them out there.
No.
You know? So,
No. In fact, I'm kind of a fussy person that way. If anything comes easy for me, I probably would be the first one to suspect it, you know, like,
mm-hmm,
so I normally like to go very deep into anything that I do, all kinds of work that I do.
yeah.
And the love, it actually comes two ways. One is the love that I personally feel for the gods and the goddesses, because I've known and have had many supernatural experiences with them since I was very young. Like I said, I started to have these my spiritual gifts. I started to have the awareness since I was very young, about 2 or 3 years old. So way before I even understood what death was or what gods were, and back then you just were in awe of everything. And so I grew up pretty much like that. But I still remember very vividly having seen Krishna, having seen Kali, having seen a lot of
Uh-huh.
goddesses and gods
Wow.
while I was very young. I could
Mm-hmm,
still remember it. And of course, my experiences in the last soon after that, they were very short lived. I mean, I think by the time I was 5 or 6, I stopped seeing them, and
uh-huh,
I started to only see the spirits and so on and so forth. But I feel like that I still remember that, and there's
mm-hmm,
a certain kind of love, a fondness that you hold into your heart when you have it
sure,
so young.
sure.
And as I grew older now, after having come all this way, um, the kind of love that I have for them is not that of what their devotees and their
Mm-hmm,
followers normally do
mm-hmm,
have religiously. I do respect all paths. I believe that those who still follow these gods and goddesses religiously have their own path. It's their journey. It has to be respected. But
mm-hmm,
for me, I've moved ahead and started loving them for who they were, you
mm-hmm,
know, and they are today.
mm-hmm,
And for me, my altar may seem like a very elaborate Hindu altar to a lot of people, but the rituals and the prayers and everything that I do every day is more out of love. It's never like, okay, I got to do this because everybody does this.
right, right. Not
So it's like,
obligation, but out of love.
no, never an obligation.
Right,
It's like, you know, when it's an obligation, you pretty much just know you got to do it, because otherwise you fear the consequences. You know what
right,
I mean? That's what religion is all about. It's all about
right.
inflicting fear and control. For me, it's like I feel like it's my family.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't come to my altar and light it up and put the oil lamps in the evening, I feel bad. I'm like, oh no, you know, you must be waiting for me.
Like a
It's
part of
that
you. Yeah.
Yes, you know, I love to do this. And so, you know, I talk to the idols. I would sit there and I would talk to them. I would meditate in front of them. So it's the best part of my life,
Mm-hmm.
being just here. And I spend hours meditating. Sometimes I can go from 1 hour to 5 hours, you know, like I could just
Wow.
sit there and just absorb all of that energy and love from them.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do that, doing this ritual seemed like the most natural thing for me, because to be able to transform that love that I have for them, and and my love for people who come to me
Mm-hmm.
asking for these requests, you know, so it all is about, like you said, it's just a very concept of love being transferred to and fro,
Mm-hmm.
and it's put on a platter, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Right.
So I believe that that's what the energy a lot of people feel is, like they
Yes,
just feel that when you look at it, regardless of whose ritual it is or what it is, they just fall in
exactly.
love with it because it contains that much of love in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's what made it work more than, me being an expert at healing. I never claimed to be an expert at healing.
Right,
I,
right.
I basically just intuitively followed whatever I had to.
Mm-hmm.
I had no clue that I could do all of this. And of course, the process is sometimes elaborate. Sometimes I have to do 2 or 3 rituals a day. And
Wow.
sometimes
Wow.
it can be exhausting because in about 2 or 3 hours, while the ritual is still on, I mean, as long as the candles burn out or the oil lamps are there, it takes about 2 to 3 hours. And I'm supposed to chant. I chant as well while I wait for the candles to go out or the oil lamps to
Mm-hmm.
go out. So that takes about 2 hours, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to chant, and sometimes I have to sit in prayer and meditation. I
Mm-hmm.
love the experience. It's always amazing. It's as good as me meditating, but then it's work.
Right,
It's work. You're
right,
you're transferring your energy,
right.
and it can be very draining as well. So I don't want people to think that I just take these pretty photos and just walk away. I
No,
don't. you know,
no,
it's
no.
a lot more work than that. Yeah, because I know that it's not required in other forms of where people use candles. I don't know, for spell work or whatever they use for.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same. They don't really have to stick around.
Yeah.
They present it or do whatever they have to do, and they can move on. But
Then
here
move
you
on.
have to finish
Yeah.
it. Yeah, you have to wait. Yeah, you can't.
I'm just in awe of the things, the elements that you use, the different things, the mantras, whatever, the flowers, the candles, because I
Mhm.
know everything has a vibration, and I'm thinking with all of that coming together, plus the love and everything else put into it, the vibrations just got to be really, high, and it
Yeah.
just seems I'm in awe of the whole thing.
Well, actually, I love the vibrations myself. I never expected it to be so high sometimes, and I was certainly very surprised by the way it's been received around the world. Like, I've been doing this for the last 6 months or so only,
Oh, wow. Wow.
and I would have done about 300 rituals by now.
Hmm. Hmm.
So like I don't post all the photos. It would be over flooding my timeline, and so I just whenever I can, I try to put in my photos. And so what I do is I also do weddings here in India.
Oh, okay.
So we have these big Indian weddings, and so they love a good presentation right in front of the altar or something where they're getting married. Sometimes it's for a housewarming,
Hmm.
where you can come and create an altar or a presentation for them like this. And so yeah, I do that too. So it's not just online. What they see online is pretty much a miniature version of what the actual ritual be. Yeah, like yesterday was the Mahashivratri here, and I did a Mahashivratri celebration for Shiva yesterday. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was consisting of quite a big presentation. But the ritual, if I was to perform it in somebody's house,
Uh-huh.
or if it was not supposed to be on camera, because I had to also think of that, like to what extent can the camera cover?
Sure.
So and so like I would say that this is just half of it, what normally
Wow.
covers. Yeah. So some of the rituals that I do for weddings take a lot of space. Yeah, it occupies a lot of planning, a lot of time. It takes about 2 hours to 3 hours to just prepare the ritual, put everything in place.
So that I was going to say it's not as quick as people might think when they look at the pictures or whatever.
No.
There's a lot of background, stuff that goes into it,
Yeah.
time and
It
effort.
goes into right from the time when they actually send you a message and say, okay, I need to book this. And then I'll say, you'll have to sit with me and discuss what this is about. Like you can't just say, I need to. I always tell people, like the thing with my followers is a lot of them know how to go to my website because I've been
Hmm.
around so long. A lot of people book. So, they already know
Right.
my website. So they just go there, click something and think, okay, this probably is right, and just go for it. But most of these, even if you see a protection ritual and then you see another protection ritual within days apart, you will notice a lot of differences between them. And some people have asked me that too. why is mine not looking like that? You know, like I was like, are you just wanting it to look prettier, or how is this going to work? So so I tell them, no, it's not like, that's not how it works, you know. And so I had to tweak a lot of things to suit your situation, because the other protection may have been from some dark entity, while yours could be a court trial that
Like
needs
each
to
one's
be in your
different
favor.
for a reason,
Yes. So,
right?
yes. So everything is different. For children, we have something different. So
Hmm.
we even have single candle rituals, which are mainly for babies and for children,
Hmm.
or very, very minor situations where they just need immediate response.
Hmm.
Then the more elaborate four candles, or now I'm trying to introduce more of the oil lamps, because oil lamps are more traditional and they carry a lot more. They seem to carry in a lot more energy.
Wow.
That, because I also use a lot of these brass and clay oil lamps, and
Hmm.
these absorb a lot of energy from the environment as well. So you know, they're absorbing tendencies more than candles. So I'm trying to gradually shift from candles to these lamps. Initially, I wanted it to look more global friendly, because a lot of people would be like, okay, they understand candles. People do a lot of candle work, especially
Right.
within the spiritual community. Now, if you were to suddenly bring in oil lamps, and everybody was like jarred about what is this, you know?
Like, what are those? Yeah.
Yeah, what are those?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes people don't even understand it's a lamp. You know, they think it's some kind of dessert dish or something. So it's like all kinds of funny things happen on my Facebook.
Uh,
So I'm like, okay, I have to get people slowly into this whole thing. So let them. They want to use the candles, let them. And of course, I have Indians asking me, Aisha, why do you use candles for our
mhm.
gods when we don't traditionally use candles? We only use
Ah.
lamps. That question has also kept coming up a lot of
Mhm.
times from Indians. So I would tell them, you know, like sometimes the vibration, the oils that are used to produce, to make these candles, are also of healing properties or whatever. It enhances the quality of the
Sure.
ritual,
Sure.
right? Whereas for some, if they don't believe it, let's say a particular client does not want me to use candles, they can freely express it and say, I'm not for that. That looks more westernized and I don't want it. So
Mhm.
at that point, I would, you know, gladly shift over to the oils. So the lands, I mean. So it basically is a discussion. It's customized based on client to client.
Mhm.
And then it's like when I start gathering everything, it takes about 3 to 4 days from the time they book the ritual for me to, you know,
Wow.
actually do it. Unless it's in the case of emergencies, then I
Mhm.
try to, you know, gather whatever I can. Sometimes like that, like when a person's hospitalized or something and
Mhm.
needs immediate healing or something. So those things have happened too. I have my basic ingredients. I have all the stuff that I need. I keep a stock of everything, but there are certain issues where, you know, it just pops up out of nowhere. Just like
Sure.
when you ran out of black candles and you think I can order it tomorrow, and then somebody comes tomorrow and say I need it today. You know, then I'm stuck. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Well,
So,
this has been very interesting, and I'm sure we've just kind of, scratched part of the surface, because I know that there's a lot that goes into these. I was going to ask you a few things about, how people can get in touch with you and find out more. But before I do that, I ask a lot of my guests, if you could tell your younger self something, what would you tell your younger self? What words of wisdom?
oh, I would say it's going to be so worth it.
Okay.
That's exactly what I would say. Not a word more or less. I'm just going to have a big smile, look at me in the eyes, and say, "This is going to be so worth it. Just
Wow.
go for it."
Wow. Well, that's very
Because it's been a very challenging
encouraging.
incarnation. It's been a very, very challenging incarnation. Um, but looking back at it now, I think that, you know, like I've come a long way, and I think to be who I am today, I had to go through all of that.
Mhm.
But while I was experiencing all of that, there was no way that I was thinking that I was going to make through, because of the different challenges that I went through. Most of them were very, very tough, and all the way from having to suddenly start from scratch.
Mhm.
Now, everybody sees me today for who I am, and because I have pretty much come a long way,
Mhm.
and they see me as who I am today, and they assume that, you know, oh, it must have been easy for her. She must have had a good background, you know.
But they don't know. They don't know.
Yeah, they think that you have a, you know, you have a good background, you have all the resources, and you probably born into a rich family, whatever they want to think,
Right. Yeah.
you know. But they have no clue what nobody's walked the path with me, as much as I've never walked in anybody's path to judge them.
Sure.
So, you know, I believe that this is the only thing I would like to tell my my younger version of me, because someone had to say it,
Mhm.
and very few came up to say it, if any. So it was pretty much a journey that I took on my own for many years,
Mhm.
and it was very difficult. But I am here today, and I know how much of value this means to me today. So if I knew back then that I would be the person I am today, I would know it's worth it. But
Right.
back then I didn't. So there were a lot of times when
Yeah.
I wanted to give up, a lot of times when I was confused, and, you know, a lot of times I fought it for no reason. So
Mhm.
I figured that, you know, it's going to be so worth it. That's the only thing I would want to say.
Well, that's great. It's a great thing to tell your younger self. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can, you know, find out more about you and the different things you have to offer, and mention the TED Talk too, where they can find all that stuff. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have I'm pretty active on most social media platforms, including Instagram and Facebook, and YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel. Well, you know, coming to my Facebook page itself, just Ayesha Sheeba. If you come to my Facebook page itself, all the links to all my websites are there. I have 3 or 4 websites. The primary website is revolutionoflight.com. All right, that's the primary website. That's where everybody goes to. And but the thing is, we're trying to it's kind of become flooded over the last few years, because a lot of services were added, a lot of other additional stuff, and sometimes it can get a little confusing. But just getting to the home page, you'll get an idea, because everything's been organized as far as my management can do it. Actually, this year we are going to make it a little more organized by introducing another website for my rituals alone, because everybody's running to the same website, you know, those
Right.
who wants readings and courses. So we have we have 2 or 3 websites. I have my online store,
Mhm.
spiristore.com, which is where you get the oils. These same oils are available
Mhm.
online, and yeah, some of the stuff that I used to sell, now I'm not very active with the store because we are focusing more on the rituals. We hardly have time.
Right.
I do have courses. I run 3 to 4 different courses. The first one is the spiritual development course, called the soul empowerment course, and
Mhm.
that runs for 9 weeks. And the other one is the sacral chakra course, which helps you to heal and work on your own chakras. All
Mhm.
right. And the third one is where we're having something called the youth program, which was basically formulated for the TEDx viewers. And you can get all the information from revolutionoflight.com.
Okay.
So that's that. And as for readings, well, I've again made it as concise as possible to just do a general session for everybody, unless it's something very exceptional like a past life reading or something like that. But
Mhm.
mainly it's just general. I just like to make it simple. It's been very
Right.
complicated. So so my rituals, I can't help it. There are like a dozen things to go through. So everybody, good luck. So the
So.
easier way out would be just send me a message on
Right.
Facebook or Instagram. Or,
Right.
that's it.
So you'll come back for another talk sometime?
I would love to. I
Okay.
think I always had that issue when I have an interview. They always think that I haven't spoken enough. So
No, no, but I think that there's so much stuff to discuss, so that's why I ask. So, well, thank you.
those who are interested can also get hold of a copy of my book called Simply Spirit. It's
Mhm.
also available on my website, Simply
Great,
Spirit.
great.
I've written. It's basically a compilation of all that I teach, all I
Mhm.
have taught, and all my posts on Facebook and everywhere that I put over the years. So my students had requested for quite a few years that I compile everything and turn into a book, so it's easier for them to use. And so yeah, that's also available, both as ebooks as well as the hard copy.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ayesha. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's an honor. It's been an honor, and thank you so much for taking the time out, especially to speak about my ritual. I'm always excited about speaking about my rituals because it's the newest thing that I'm doing, And you know, I don't think I've spoken enough about it anywhere. Everything else I've spoken about. I've done quite a few interviews even
Mhm.
last year, but this year, after the rituals came through, I never had the opportunity. I just kept working and working and working. Before I knew it, I'd done almost 300, and I'm like, I
Wow.
hardly even spoke about it. Yeah,
That's a
somebody
lot.
should give me a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, so like yeah, that. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm so
Thank you.
honored. I'm
Okay.
humbled. Thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
I really wish you the very best for your show
Oh, thank you. Till next time. Bye.
ahead. Bye bye.